We're sitting here with a jazz saxophonist, teacher, our father, Dick Oatts. Came down to New Orleans to do some master classes and stuff. And we're going to ask him a few things. Now, Dick, could you please let people know about the Thad Jones, Mel Lewis orchestra that you were with? A lot of people younger may not know about them. Could you tell us something about Thad and Mel and what made that band special?
Well, it started in 1966, and it was just going to be 1 or 2 weeks on a Monday night at the Village Vanguard. That's what Max Gordon who had run the Village Vanguard, the very famous jazz club in New York City. And I think they had got maybe a month of Mondays of February, and that was it. But it was so successful. It was done on a Monday night where most of the musicians during that era were free from theaters or any other kind of engagement, because the club gigs usually went Tuesday through Saturday, or it was a dark night in the theater, so they didn't have to play. So there was a lot of availability. There was less sessions done on a Monday, or for whatever reason, they decided Monday at the Vanguard would be the place that they could launch the Thad Jones and Mel Lewis Orchestra. And they picked an all-star band of incredible, players, jazz, studio, just big band players, well-renowned. It was an all-star band they picked. And they only had about 5 or 6 charts to play for 3 sets. So they really had to stretch them out. So Thad was opening up all kinds of sections and letting guys play. And then they'd have to repeat some tunes over by the 3rd set or the 2nd set. And after the first night, it was just such a success musically that now, 43 or 44 years later, we're still there on Monday nights. Thad Jones and Mel Lewis have passed away. Thad passed away in, I think it's 1986 or 87, and Mel Lewis passed away in 1990, I believe. But we continue it on with the Vanguard Jazz Orchestra, formerly the Thad Jones and Mel Lewis Orchestra. And we became a nonprofit organization so we could get grants for recordings and educational services and tours and being able to reach out and launch new writers, new works. And so it's more of an, we want it to become like a true jazz big band institution. And I think thanks to the Village Vanguard and a couple key players, we've been able to do so, So now we're still working Mondays, and we just won a Grammy for Best Large Ensemble of 2008 or something, or 2009, I can't remember. And we're going on tour to Japan in December, and then later on in December we're going to China for a few gigs. And it's coming together. I was really kind of shocked at how we could make this work after one of the most famous drummers and trumpet players and writers of all time left us, but they gave us a good start in the music. When you look at the music that they had passed on to us, and that we have had written for the band since then by great writers like Brookmeyer and McNeely, and Jim McNeely and Michael Abeni, Slide Hampton, Bob Mintzer. We've been able to carry it on, and I think the true leader of that band has always been about the music, and so that's how we look at it. So we're kind of servants to the great music that is provided. So, and it's been a great experience for me since I joined in 1977. I joined on its 11th year in existence, and now it's on its 43rd. So that's 32 years about, yeah. But it's been like my college. My PhD was had with that band, I guess.
Wow, great school. Could you tell us a little bit about Thad and Mel? Just give people, as they're not around anymore, and younger students may not know about these jazz musicians. They're not as famous as like John Coltrane, but they're special guys. Could you tell us a little bit about them and your experience?
Well, Mel's from Buffalo, New York, and Thad was from Detroit. Thad, of course, was raised with in a very famous family with Elvin Jones and Hank Jones. And Thad was one of the middle brothers. And Hank was the oldest, and Elvin was one of the youngest. So Thad's writing started to become, I think he always wrote, Thad always wrote music. But he started to write a lot when he was in the service, in the service band. And then when he joined with Basie, he started to write a lot of charts there. And an incredibly unique sound. Was unlike anything when it came out, when people really, I mean, Thad had been writing several years before he started this band. But it was a sound that he could get like no other writer, and it was so different for its time. And he was with, I think he played with Count Basie for 9 years. And, you know, he had played with Frank Foster, who's also, you know, an amazing writer, and Frank West the same. And a lot of those guys wrote in those big bands, and Thad was one of them. But he just had a rare gift to write in a lot of different styles, and wrote for vocalists, and he wrote contemporary, music of contemporary artists in his style of big band writing. I remember he wrote some things for Basie, and Basie finally said, you know, Thad, your stuff is really not for us, because it was pretty challenging in a different way. So I think that's when Thad said, you know, maybe I had to start thinking about another band. And the same thing happened with Maria Schneider. Yeah. Maria Schneider, with Mel Lewis told Maria, look, Maria, your stuff is great, but it's not really necessarily for this band. Maybe you should start your own band. And she did. Bob Mintzer wrote some of his great stuff, early stuff with Mel Lewis band. And he ended up starting a fantastic band. So I think that band has always been about new works. Bob Brookmeyer, Jerry Dodge, and Cecil Bridgewater, and especially Bob Brookmeyer. Yeah. Very key roles as far as writing music for that band. And it was so important for writers to have an outlet, you know. We played charts by Bill Finnegan, Maria Schneider, Julie Cavadini, and we're continuing, we're getting a new suite from Bob Brookmeyer. But Thad and Mel, when they started the band, it was so unique because it was a very turbulent time in the mid-'60s. And finally to have a white and black band, it was just such a landmark. And it broke through barriers, and it was a good time for that to happen. And it was really revolutionary. Not just what was going on musically, but to bring racial harmony and to understand different cultures and beginnings. And I think that band represents that as much as it does the music. And it was some of the best players from all the bands, white, Hispanic, black bands. Some of the best musicians ever would play with that band, and that's what it was about. The music brought us together, and that's what I think that I'll always remember playing with Thad Jones and Mel Lewis, is that that music that Thad wrote and the way Mel played, and of course Thad, it brought a lot of racial harmony and a new beginning to how to look at music and bringing people together. So that's how I most fondly remember it. Of course, every time Thad would play, everybody in the orchestra would just be like, holy cow, that's an amazing. I did a gig at Carnegie Hall once, and I saw Thad in the back, and I said, Thad, what are you so nervous for? He says, I got to play with Roy Eldridge and Dizzy Gillespie tonight. So there it was, right in front of me was Roy Eldridge, Thad, and Dizzy. And you couldn't have found a better lineage of trumpet players. When you think of those three trumpet players, it was just like, wow, it was an
Yeah.
amazing. You could hear the history of that style and how and the love that each player played with and how one grew out of the other.
Mm.
It was incredible. It was a great experience. I remember playing there once at Carnegie, and when Thad, Hank, and Elvin played a quartet tune with Rufus Reed on a tune called "But Not For Me." And at the time, you know, there was some inter-family issues, you know, and Alvin started to play a little bit over the bar line and a little more triply than Hank was hearing it. And so Hank gave him the worst glare, older brother kind of glare over the piano. And as soon as he did that, Alvin went right back into playing more straight ahead time for Hank. So those kind of dynamics, I was able to catch the tail end of some of that great music and the players that were responsible for that, you know.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's why the band is still there.
And then, you know, like Mel Lewis played incredible drums with, and played a lot of Brookmeyer and Bill Holman charts. And he was with Stan Kenton for a couple of years. And just, that was some of the best swinging times of that band. And it was just an amazing time for Mel. He played with Beneke and just a lot of, played with Mulligan's band, Terry Gibbs. Mel used to do a lot of studio work. He was a great reader. But more than anything, he was so musical. His nickname was the Tailor. And I think, you know, Mel could bring, I've seen him playing some of the roughest charts that came into that band. He'd make them sound like that, so natural. And I just think that he had a rare gift. It wasn't what Mel played as much as what he didn't play. That was really remarkable. Yeah. You know, the taste that he had for letting the band do a lot of the hits, and he brought the band in up to the hits, but didn't like have to play them because the band was so strong, you know. So his drumming and Thad's music was a match made in heaven. It was just incredibly extraordinary.
Yeah, definitely missed, even though you guys do your thing. Now, outside of the Vanguard band, you've had quite a career as well, you know, playing and teaching. Is there anything you can talk to people about what made you unique and how you were successful in such an environment coming from Iowa?
Well, I think about, I guess, you know, I don't think of myself as unique as much as if there was an award in Downbeat magazine for most improved, I think I might be able to be up for that award. I think for me, what made it exciting for me was that constantly testing myself and seeing how I could learn and grow always. I mean, it was, I don't look at jazz as just a performance, it's kind of a lifelong journey. And I learned that, I learned about moving to New York, that it was, I came from Iowa, my hometown was 700 people. My dad was the band director and he played very good alto. And I remember I first picked up the trumpet, and when I dropped my brother's trumpet, my brother says, "If you ever pick up my trumpet again, I'll kill you." So my dad gave me an old soprano, and I started to play the soprano, and then I said, you know what? I think my dad knows a lot more about saxophone than he does trumpet. So I figured maybe I could get ahead on that. I'm sorry. I'll turn this off. So that's what I did is I took into the alto because he played alto, and he was such an inspiration. That I played a lot in high school, and he had an amazing, he started the jazz big band high school stuff approach in Iowa. I remember doing clinics in the early 60s, going out and playing the blues, out of nowhere standards, and kind of helping him send the message. And all there was were concert bands, and we'd be starting whole new programs in possibilities of jazz, and he was really instrumental in that state and surrounding states for starting jazz programs in high schools. And then when I did about a year and a half in Drake University, like I mentioned earlier, and decided that wasn't quite what I had in mind. I had to play a little bit more, so I moved to Minneapolis. I got an invitation to move there. And I really wasn't thinking about jazz as much as just about making a living. And so I spent 5 years there learning how to play flute, clarinet, learning more tunes, learning how to play different genres of music and approaches to making a living. And I stayed there 5 years and then decided that, I'm going to give New York just one shot. And through a friend of mine, I got a shot to audition with the Thad Jones and Mel Lewis Orchestra. And I managed to, impress some of the guys. And Thad asked me a week later if I'd like to join the band. And I said yes, of course. And I was about 23 or 24 at the time. And so that was my introduction into New York. And since then, I've been still a student of the music. I have had a chance to play with a lot of great players, some well-known, some not so well-known, but nevertheless, people that I can learn from constantly. And so I just needed, I think, it wasn't that the scene in Iowa and Minneapolis and other places I've been to since then are all very good. It just seemed like I needed a larger place to delve into. I needed more help. From a lot of different experiences. And plus, working in New York, I had another family in Europe, several countries in Europe that I work with, and then Japan, and then now South America. Then I'm having a lot of close friends, and so I do a fair amount of touring, and I record on Steeplechase Records, and I had recorded with DMP before that, some solo records. So I just keep plodding along. I don't look at myself as, a big success. I just look at it as been such an amazing journey so far. And it inspires me to keep going. And when I have an opportunity to come out to great colleges like this or the Monk Institute, or I teach at Temple, which is an amazing university, and I taught at Manhattan School of Music and NYU before that. I just really get such a feeling of gratitude from my experiences, which people like Thad Jones and Rob Brookmeyer and Mel Lewis and Red Rodney or the guys in the band like Rich Perry, Joe Lovano, Gary Smulyan, Kenny Garrett, Steve Coleman, Billy Drews, Ralph LaLama, all those saxophone players that have given me this chance to improve and very patient with me. It's the least I can do is be patient when I come out and hear great young talent. And it just keeps getting better and better and better. And so I'm excited. This is one of the most exciting times to me playing jazz, because it just keeps getting stronger and more people are starting to really appreciate it from a deeper level.
Yeah. Now, you also said you've been a teacher and you're a father. Do you have any words for these younger musicians who may be watching this video, from the kids and maybe the college students who maybe aren't in New York or trying to improve?
I would just suggest that, try to space your learning out over years instead of trying to think you can soak it up in 4 years. And you need time to establish some identity with what you've learned and how to apply some of that before you go in and amass new information. So I think that, and try to just play live a lot. Don't try to think you can do it by yourself in a practice room. You really have to play with people. Jazz is really a people's music. It deals with people playing together. And it's all about togetherness. So you really have to play with a lot of different styles and before you can find your own concepts. And try to find like-minded spirits and other people that you can feel normal in. You know, try to find like-minded people that can help you and join you in your quest of learning. I don't think that I'll ever be what I call accomplished, because I'm always a student. I'm like you guys, I'm just older looking. You know, but I feel like you guys make me young, the students make me young, and hopefully I can make them a little older. So I kind of like to look at it that way. But I think as far as advice, I just say, try to get obsessive and get crazed with it for a while, and try to keep the other obsessions at bay that might come along with that. So you can, you know, learn in a positive way instead of, you know, it's very easy to be very negative on development. Some people are fast, some people are slow. Just find out how you learn and accept that and find your individuality through that instead of comparing yourself to this guy or this girl or this person, this great musician, to the point where you are afraid of it. You should have deep respect for what's gone on before, and a respect for the past, but you also have to have a bravery for going forward. You know. So.
Thank you so much for your words.
You're welcome.
And your time.